Following up from last week's video, I'm going to continue speaking about what I call value-based budgeting. So I think it might be best understood if I use an example to start with. So let's take an imaginary situation. Let's call our person Marvin and imagine he works 40 hours, 40-hour weeks, and makes $60,000 a year. He's single and takes the standard deduction for taxes, and he pays 4% in state taxes as well. So altogether, let's say he pays a total of 11,500 in total income tax, leaving him with 48,500 left over to spend. That's about $4,000 a month. Let's break this down by hour. If he works 40 hours a week, and there are 52 weeks in a year, then we can take 48,500, divide that by 52 weeks, and then divide that by 40 hours a week. And we find out that he makes about $23.32 per hour net. I think this is very important to know because it's very easy for Marvin or someone like Marvin to spend $23 on some good or service, even spontaneously, without much thought. $23 really doesn't sound like that much depending on what it is that you're buying, and it can be easily a spontaneous purchase. But it might be a different scenario if Marvin asks himself the question, is this good or service worth 1 hour of my time and energy? Well, in some cases, there's no question about it. There's no really good alternative, and there's no way Marvin is going to be able to do the same service himself, so it is worth that hour of his time. But in other cases, it really causes him to consider if he's really putting value in the right place. For example, if Marvin buys 3 coffees a week at his favorite coffee shop, each for $6, then that is about 12 coffees a month for a total of $72. That's just over 3 hours of Marvin's time for those 12 coffees. But is there something more valuable that Marvin might be spending his time working for? For example, would it be more valuable to Marvin to be saving money toward the startup of a small business, or for that vacation that he's been wanting to take for years, or toward building his own discretionary fund to improve his overall lifestyle for years to come? He might not do this with just coffee money, but given enough observation of what exactly he's spending his valuable time paying for, this is not a difficult thing to free up even 15% of total monthly expenses to redirect toward a new intention. Even cutting out 1 coffee a week, making at home, for example, saves him a full hour of work per month to pay for it. Other than, of course, the much cheaper cost of buying the coffee mix for use at home. He's essentially bought back 1 more future hour of his time. And very likely, 1 less coffee purchase per week is not going to observably change his overall sense of happiness. Once it's a habit, he won't even notice. But this can be done for a number of things. If you're not sure where to start, here's a sort of exercise that you can try. There's a concept called a spending fast, which is a radical way of cutting back on expenses by forcing yourself not to spend any money on anything except the bare necessities for a select period of time, like a week or a month. Now, this is pretty difficult for someone to do, especially if there's more than one person they're responsible for, like sharing expenses with a spouse or a partner or raising children. But what you can do instead is try interspersing days like this. So for example, you can try to go for a full month where every other day you don't spend any money other than the monthly fixed costs, which can include things like rent, mortgage, utilities, food, insurance, and things like that. Now, this is not meant to be a permanent way of living, but what it does is force you out of your normal everyday habits. It forces you to walk away from certain spontaneous things that you might have done without question before, and it helps to open your eyes to what might be possible. And when you realize what is possible on your budget, you can begin to be much more intentional in dreaming about how you could more profitably spend your money toward the things that satisfy in the long term. Beyond the material things, buying back your time, cutting back on the rigid schedules of being dependent on a micromanaging employer, and redirecting yourself toward a cause that you truly believe in, whatever the initial pay. Because these things ultimately, when held in proper balance and priority, are what lead to not only greater sense of satisfaction, but also ultimately toward those things which you personally can uniquely excel at and allow you to offer the greatest value to the world around you. Here's the thing about restructuring your budget. If you do it correctly and make sure to include a budget line item for spontaneous fun spending, you can place healthy boundaries to spending in such a way that those boundaries can improve regularly over time. Those boundaries can widen because you're using money in a more productive way that will expand opportunities and grow exponentially over the months and years. If you budget in a way which doesn't give up the necessities for well-being and offers the feeling of plenty, then this is a sustainable way that will simply become a habit. And like any habit, it eventually just becomes unconscious. If it means you also do certain things for yourself, like for example, wash the car at home, or mow the lawn, maybe make dinner, whatever the case may be, the accomplishment of these things actually can add to overall happiness because it offers you a variety into your life that goes beyond the niche of your specific division of labor at your place of employment. Because we as humans love to work. As long as it's meaningful, as long as it offers us some variety, it gives us autonomy, and it isn't overly taxing and exhausting. And we can actually make a positive out of this way of living on a budget if we do it with the greater purpose in mind. I talk more about this in my course on budgeting, which you can find at thewealthexpedition.com. So if you'd like additional help with constructing a sustainable budget, paying off debt, and building toward the future, this is an excellent guide that you can use to think through and plan your own future through budgeting. You can also subscribe to the newsletter, which is free, and this YouTube channel for regular weekly content on personal finance, which specifically is geared toward investing in entrepreneurship. With the things that you'll learn, I believe anyone can construct a lifestyle that is healthy, balanced, and prosperous in this modern age, even with all the confusion and fear that so often grips the minds of people around the world. We can be that change. We can be the trailblazers and the light which perhaps might inspire others to follow. So I hope you'll join me along this journey as we blaze the trail together.